Welcome in, everybody, to another deep dive.
Good.
Today, we're going to be taking a look at the Broadway musical Wicked, and Wicked, right? I mean, it's become a cultural phenomenon at this point.
It really has.
But we're going to rewind all the way back to opening night, October 30th, 2003, to really see how this show became what it is today.
Wicked wasn't just another musical, you
Yeah.
know. It came in with this massive budget, star-studded cast.
Yeah.
The hype was palpable, like you could just feel it in the air.
Yeah, it must have been a huge gamble for everyone involved.
Oh, absolutely. Big gamble.
So imagine you're at the Gershwin Theatre,
Mhm.
one of the largest venues on Broadway, and it's opening night. The place is packed.
Oh, yeah.
And you've got this mechanical dragon hanging over the audience.
Mhm.
The orchestra's tuning up. You can just feel that
Yeah.
energy, can't you? And the curtain rises.
It's like stepping into Oz.
Right. And then you have Idina Menzel as Elphaba and Kristen Chenoweth as Glinda.
Oh, two powerhouses.
I mean, what a pairing.
Absolutely iconic casting.
And our sources describe Menzel's voice as just powerful, full of emotional depth, and Chenoweth with
Yeah.
her comedic timing and this incredible soprano.
Yeah, and it wasn't just about their individual talents, right? It was the way they played off each other.
Yeah, that chemistry.
Yeah, this undeniable chemistry that really captivated the audience, and how they embodied those characters and how those characters interacted
Right.
really drove the show's emotional core.
And then there's Defying Gravity.
Oh, come on.
The Act 1 finale,
Chill.
Elphaba rising against that starry backdrop, and the audience goes wild.
Yeah, it was electric.
It was more than applause. It was like this collective gasp.
Yeah.
This moment that really cemented Wicked in Broadway history.
You can feel it even just thinking about it.
But here's the thing.
What's that?
The critics,
Oh, here we go.
they weren't all on board.
Right.
We had standing ovations happening alongside some pretty seriously mixed reviews.
It's pretty interesting, right? Like Frank Rich called the narrative overstuffed, for example.
Really?
Yeah. And, the show was trying to balance those darker themes with the humor, and it definitely sparked some debate about what a Broadway musical could and should be.
Right. So how did Wicked become this phenomenon we know and love today if the critics were so divided?
Well, even with those mixed reviews, something else was happening.
Okay.
The audience loved it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Word of mouth was powerful even before social media.
Wow.
People were connecting with the characters, the music, the emotional depth, and they told everyone they knew.
So what was it about those characters that resonated so deeply?
Was it?
Elphaba's journey as the misunderstood outcast, or Glinda's evolution beyond the good witch stereotype?
It was both, and maybe even more than that. It was the way Wicked turned that classic fairy tale on its head. It made the audience question who was good and who was evil, and it made them see things from a different perspective, and that resonated with people.
That's so
They
interesting.
saw themselves in these flawed characters, and they were drawn to their journey.
Yeah, like those themes of acceptance, of questioning the norm. It feels like it resonated with audiences on a level that maybe some critics just missed.
Yeah.
Like it tapped into something cultural, something people were already feeling.
Absolutely. And that audience love it translated into tangible success,
Right.
The cast recording became a hit songs like Defying Gravity and popular Taking on a Life of Their Own.
Wow.
Anthem is the word that our source material uses.
Oh, wow.
This wasn't just about a Broadway show. It was impacting pop culture.
That's incredible. And then the accolades started piling up.
Yeah.
10 Tony nominations, 3 wins, including Best Actress for Idina Menzel, a Grammy for the album, and then productions popping up in London, Tokyo, Sydney.
It was global.
Yeah, this wasn't just a New York thing.
No, not at all. And when you look at the business side of things, Wicked shattered box office records.
Really.
Yeah, over $56 million in its first year alone. To put that into perspective, it consistently ranks among the highest grossing Broadway shows ever, right up there with The Lion King and Phantom of the Opera.
That's crazy.
Pretty exclusive club.
So here we are, 20 years later, over 7,000 performances, and Wicked is still running strong.
It's amazing.
That's not just luck, right?
No.
It's a testament to the power of this story, the music, the performances, the creative team behind it all. But how did all this come from that initial divided reception?
I think it goes back to that disconnect between critics and audiences,
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes what critics see as flaws, audiences see as strengths. And Wicked really highlights that tension.
Okay, so let's unpack that a little bit more after a quick break.
Welcome back to our deep dive into all things Wicked. We've explored its opening night, the mixed critical reception, and of course, its undeniable success.
It really does feel like Wicked had this like magic touch or something,
No.
something that really resonated with audiences, even if some critics weren't totally on board.
It did.
So what was it about the show that really captured hearts and minds? Our sources mention themes of acceptance, defiance, and friendship. Were those just buzzwords, or did they actually, play out in the story?
Oh, they're totally woven into the fabric of the show.
Okay.
We see it in Elphaba and Glinda, these two very different characters who form a bond against all odds.
Right.
One's an outcast, the other's popular and bubbly. It's this classic dynamic.
Yeah.
But Wicked flips the script.
It really does, right?
Yeah.
Like it makes us question our assumptions about good and evil.
Yeah.
Suddenly, the Wicked Witch might not be so wicked after all, and the Good Witch has her own complexity.
Exactly.
Is that what resonated with people, do you think?
I think so. Wicked challenges that traditional fairy tale. It makes us see things from a different perspective, and that resonated with audiences on a really deep level.
And we see ourselves in those flawed characters, right?
Exactly. They're not perfect. They make mistakes.
Right.
They struggle with their identities just like all of us. And their friendship is far from easy,
Yeah.
They disagree, they challenge each other,
Right.
but ultimately they're there for each other. And it reminds us that connection can be found in the most unexpected places, even when the world tries to divide us.
And the music,
Oh, music.
those melodies, those powerful lyrics, they weren't just catchy tunes. They were like carrying the weight of the story,
The music elevated the whole experience. Just take Defying Gravity, for example.
Okay.
It's not just about Elphaba literally defying gravity.
All right.
It's about embracing your true self, even when the world tells you to conform. And that song became a rallying cry for anyone who felt different or misunderstood.
It's true. And popular with its satirical take on social expectations. It's funny.
Yeah.
But underneath it all, there's this message about being true to yourself.
Yeah.
Did those specific songs contribute to the show's success, do you think?
Absolutely. The music resonated because it tapped into these universal emotions and experiences, and the way those songs are performed, with such raw emotion.
Yeah.
It's no wonder the cast recording was such a success.
And we can't forget the visual spectacle, right?
Yeah.
The dragon, the costumes, the elaborate sets. All of that transported you to another world.
It did.
Was that just for show, or was there more to it?
The visual elements weren't just window dressing, they were integral to the storytelling, Spectacle created wonder and awe, but it also served a deeper purpose. To take Elphaba's green skin, for instance.
Right. It wasn't just a visual quirk. It was a symbol of her otherness, her alienation.
Exactly. And as her character evolved, her costumes and her presence on stage reflected that transformation,
Yeah.
It was a visual representation of her journey. And then you have Glinda with her sparkling gowns and grace. She represented a different kind of power, one rooted in social acceptance.
But even Glinda undergoes a transformation.
She does.
As she learns to see beyond appearances. So it wasn't just about pretty costumes, right?
Right.
It was about using those elements to tell a deeper story,
Yeah.
to add these layers of meaning.
Yeah, Wicked was more than just a musical. It was a visual and auditory feast that explored these universal themes
Right.
in a way that resonated with people of all ages and backgrounds.
And it made us think differently about the world, about ourselves, and the power of friendship and acceptance.
It did, and it did so with creativity, humor, and heart. It's no wonder it became this global phenomenon.
We've covered the themes, the music, the visuals. But what about the impact that Wicked has had on Broadway and beyond?
Mm-hmm.
How did this one show change the game?
That's a great question, and one we'll unpack as we continue our deep dive.
We're back and ready to wrap up our deep dive into Wicked.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about the opening night, the critical response, and all those elements that resonated so strongly with audiences. So now let's explore its lasting impact.
Okay, so how did Wicked change the game?
Right.
Well, on a financial level, Wicked's dominance at the box office proved that musicals could be this huge commercial success,
Right.
and that they could attract an audience that went beyond the typical Broadway crowd.
So it wasn't just about artistic merit. It showed that a well-crafted, visually spectacular production
Yeah.
could also be this financial powerhouse.
Yeah.
Did that change the landscape of Broadway?
I think it paved the way for other big-budget musicals to take risks and push boundaries, It demonstrated that audiences craved something more than just the traditional song and dance formula.
Right, and it wasn't all about the money either.
Yeah.
Our sources suggest that Wicked tapped into something culturally significant, something that resonated with people far beyond the stage.
Definitely.
So what was it about this show that spoke to people on that level?
Well, the themes of acceptance, questioning authority, and embracing your true self were incredibly relevant in a world grappling with social change and evolving identities.
Right.
Wicked created a space for those conversations.
Even if indirectly.
Yeah, even if indirectly.
Yeah, it's like the show gave people permission to be different, to challenge the status quo.
Absolutely.
And the music, especially Defying Gravity, became this anthem for those who felt like outsiders.
Absolutely. I mean, the impact on the performers is also worth noting. Idina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth, they became household names.
Right.
And their performances raised the bar for vocal power and emotional depth on Broadway.
It's amazing how Wicked launched careers, inspired countless young performers, and created this whole new generation of theater enthusiasts.
Right.
But its reach goes even further, right?
Oh, yeah.
With all the international productions and countless regional and amateur performances, Wicked has touched so many lives.
It's true. Wicked's reach is truly global, and the fact that it's still running strong after 20 years, over 7,000 performances, it tells us something significant.
Yeah.
What do you think Wicked's journey to stardom can teach us?
That's a good question. I think maybe the biggest takeaway is that success can be measured in many ways. Critical acclaim is valuable,
Of course.
but it's that genuine connection with the audience, that emotional resonance, that really elevates a show to the level of a cultural phenomenon.
You said it Wicked dared to be different, it challenged conventions.
And in doing so, it created a legacy that continues to inspire and captivate.
Absolutely.
Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into Wicked. We hope you've enjoyed this journey with us and that you've gained some new insights into this incredible show and the reasons behind its enduring success.
We hope you'll join us again for another deep dive into the world of theater soon.